and welcome to the Big Data Debrief, a new video series where Big Data Wire editors interview the movers and the shakers in the big data world. I'm Alex Woody, the managing editor at Big Data Wire, and today we have Kishore Gopalakrishna, one of the inventors of Apache Pinot and the CEO and co-founder of StarTree, joining us today. Kishore, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex. I'm super excited to be on the show.
Oh, I'm glad to have you here. So maybe you could start off telling us a little bit about Apache Pinot for the folks out there who aren't familiar with this project. What challenge were you trying to solve at LinkedIn, and how did you do it?
Yeah, so this was way back in 2012, 2014 timeframe, where LinkedIn was trying to solve this interesting problem of providing a lot of insights to their end users. And this is something that pretty much everyone uses today, which is called Who Viewed My Profile. And one of the big challenges was that we were taking the scale, the analytics to massive scale, right? So it was no longer restricted to the internal employees of LinkedIn. It's like all the users. So you can think of hundreds of millions of users of LinkedIn being able to get real-time insights and having the freshness of the insights as well as at very low latency. And last but not the least, because of the number of people out there, the concurrency is also very high. So you kind of mix all these three things. You want the real timeness, you want the freshness of the data, you want the low latency, and the concurrency, and all these things together made it really, really challenging for the existing systems to be able to solve this problem. And that's kind of what we started off as a challenge, and then we were able to solve that with Apache Pinot.
Okay, great. And I guess that's the type of challenge you couldn't solve just with Postgres, right? Or maybe an Oracle database. Being able
We
to
tried.
gather all that data and serve it out.
Yeah, we definitely
Did,
tried that.
And
Sorry, there is some
what was
lag.
the result of, I guess, trying using just regular relational technology? What was the result?
So this was a technology solution that was tried before, Alex, and one of the a couple of challenges. One is definitely in terms of the latency, because you are not able to slice and dice your data on all different dimensions using a key value store or Oracle or things like that. That's not really purpose built for that. And the second part is the operational complexity, because when you use a key value store, you're trying to pre-materialize all your cubes upfront, but then that's
Mhm.
not scaling, because as you add more dimensions and more fields, now you have to re-ingest and pretty much replace the entire data. That's not scalable as well in terms of an operational point of view. And it's very slow in terms of the iterations, because the product team keeps coming up with new visualizations, and setting that whole product up takes a lot of time. So that time is also very critical. So I think all these three in combination makes it really, really important for a company to have something like Apache Pinot, where you can provide real-time insights to your audience and be able to build very, very rich data products.
Okay. And Apache Pinot was built on top of Apache Kafka, right? I'm guessing, did Kafka come first? Would you have needed something like Pinot if Kafka didn't exist?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of the most important innovations that happened in the data space, where you need something like Kafka, because the key thing here is the freshness of the data. So if there is no system that allows you to capture events as and when they happen, and then there is nothing like Pinot which can actually ingest directly from Kafka and then be able to query, then you're kind of missing that aha moment, right? In terms of going from events to insights within a few seconds. And that's where the combination of Kafka and Pinot made it really, really awesome for LinkedIn in terms of building all these different data products. So the other important thing is the way we built it was also one of the unique ways in terms of how we tailored it to the way you consume from Kafka. So you don't need another system in between Kafka and Pinot, where you're pulling this data from Kafka and then writing it to another system. So it kind of goes back to the traditional way of having an ETL system in between that introduces a lot of complexity as well as latency.
Okay, so you were trying to get away from the ETL approach, or even just moving the data, right? It needs to be
Exactly.
acting upon a single stream of data, which is Kafka in this case.
Mhm.
Okay. Could you tell us Yeah, could you tell us a little bit more about Pinot? I guess without getting too down into the technical weeds, just at a high level, what's the general approach?
Yeah, so our fundamental philosophy here has been to reduce the cost per query, right? So that's the high level metric that we look at, which is, hey, what does it cost to run a single query on your system? And this is very important because our hypothesis is that if you build a system and if you build the right product on top of it, then a lot of people will actually be querying it, not at like once a day or two, but like continuously. And the concurrency will be very high, so that means the cost per query has to go down. So now if you zoom in to the next level, what it really means is the amount of work done per query has to be minimal. And that's where we came up with a different approach compared to the traditional databases, where you can actually use leverage indexes efficiently and
Okay.
then be able to filter the data very quickly and also aggregate it very quickly. So we make use of a lot of indexing techniques to be able to achieve this performance at scale.
Okay. So it sounds like there's a lot of tricks, different approaches you're using, to ingest the data quickly, right? To organize it once you've ingested, and then also to enable queries on it after the fact.
That's right.
So there's no real secret sauce. It's kind of the several different approaches. Is that right?
Yes and no. I think that it's if you kind of look at these challenges in isolation, it feels like it is solvable. But it's like the combination of all those things, right? So you kind of mixing the workload characteristics of an OLTP system, which is serving millions of queries per second, with an analytical system which is serving like analytical functions, right? So you kind of thinking about OLAP at OLTP scale, and that kind of bringing this challenges of two different systems into one. So that makes it hard. And the fact that you want columnar store for analytics, but you also want the ability to update it, you want to be able to append it, and those are all the things that are not good for columnar stores. So you kind of have to think about this whole set of puzzles and then be
Mhm.
able to come up with a solution that fits perfectly for this kind of a use case.
And when you helped create Pinot at LinkedIn, did you immediately know that this technology could be used outside of LinkedIn for other use cases, or did you develop it originally just to solve this LinkedIn problem?
This was just to solve the LinkedIn problem. I think LinkedIn itself was a game changer for us at LinkedIn. We started off with who viewed my profile, and we have like almost 100 plus products on LinkedIn that actually started leveraging this technology. And that's when we decided to open source it. And when we open sourced, Uber adopted it, and we saw similar growth in Uber as well. So there was a lot of initial adoption at LinkedIn and Uber, and that's kind of when we realized that, hey, there is something more to this than just being used at LinkedIn and Uber.
Okay, and so that was, I think, was that 2018? That was when you co-founded StarTree
As
with Shank.
2020, yeah, end of 2019, 2020. That's when we started Startree, me and my
Okay,
co-founder.
okay, great. And so what kind of success have you had so far with the StarTree?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we started off with like two companies, mostly primarily the adoption being at LinkedIn and Uber. But very quickly, as we started focusing on the evangelism and building the community, we saw a lot of adoption from companies like Stripe, Walmart, Cisco, DoorDash. All of them actually started adopting this technology and be able to provide a lot of valuable insights to their customers. So from there, we have grown a lot in terms of the adoption. I mean, you can think of a lot of leaders in various spaces. It's not only restricted to the B2C companies, but also a lot of B2B companies as well, leveraging this technology. The domains have gone way beyond just the social network and the delivery industry. But we also see within each industry as well, a lot of other companies actually following the leaders. So Uber Eats did it, then
Mhm.
DoorDash, Cloud Kitchens, Zomato, Grab, all of them actually adopting the technology. So you make almost think like if you're ordering food online today, you're probably leveraging Pinot or Startree somewhere.
All right. So
in the
you get a little glass of Pinot with every DoorDash delivery, right? Could you elaborate a little bit more on the different use cases that you're seeing? I mean, at first it started out with who's viewed your profile at LinkedIn.
Mhm.
What are some other popular use cases you've seen?
So we have, yeah, from there it's delivery and logistics from at Uber, and then you can think of fintech where someone like Stripe is using it for providing analytics to their merchants, and you can also think of fraud detection as well. So we are helping companies save millions of dollars by being able to detect frauds in close to near real time. And then you can also think about in terms of retail space. That's another space that is gaining a lot of momentum where they're actually able to do clickstream analytics, product analytics, all these things in real time, where they can actually look at the user flow, the user journey, and then the funnel. So all these different types of use cases can be powered. And last but not the least, we are also seeing more adoption in the observability space now. So where people are actually using this for logs, metrics, traces, events, and many more. So the adoption is growing in both directions, both from a domain perspective as well as from a use case perspective.
Okay, so it sounds like any use case that requires OLAP capability, all right, to be able to do kind of the aggregates upon a large number of fields in the
Mhm.
database, right, with fast moving data at high concurrency, right? Are those kind of
That's right.
the three main characteristics? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and again, a lot of the use cases that we power are mission critical for our customers. So that means they're using day in and day out, and a lot of stakeholders who actually depend on this to make decisions. And one of our key features look for is like, are the insights that we are providing actionable and are people are actually acting on it. So it's not more of a stale, it's not around like having a stale dashboard that someone just looks up once in a day or something like that, but this is like driving real action, so that you're either providing great insights to your users or using this to save money and prevent losses.
Okay. And obviously, Pinot is open source, so anybody can go download it and start playing around with it. What additional value are you providing at StarTree on top of that?
Yeah, so we think about it in different layers. The first one is like the ingestion layer itself. So with open source, you have to build your own pipeline in terms of managing the ingestion. But whereas with Startree, we have a completely self-managed option. You can point at your source. We manage all the ingestions for pipeline for you, right? So that's one part in terms of the ingestion. Then we have a lot of differentiation on the storage side and the query side. On the storage side, predominantly we are cloud native with Startree. So that means you can keep your data in S3 and then query it directly. Whereas with open source, you kind of need a local disk. And on the query side, we have a lot of other additional indexes on top of the ones that you can find in open source. So you kind of look at this end to end, and then we are able to provide additional benefits both from a query storage and as well as additional features like upserts, for example, as a in-memory component in the open source, whereas with Startree you can scale to billions and billions of keys without any limitation. So it's we kind of don't fork the open source code there, unlike what others do. So we kind of build on top of it with plugins, and that allows everyone to seamlessly move because we are API compatible with the open source as well. So, but you get additional features on top of it.
Okay, and I take it StarTree is available on all three major public clouds, and it'll run on other pub subsystems besides Kafka, such as Kinesis or some others too, Pulsar.
Yes, yes, yes. So our we have a very strong connector ecosystem. So you can ingest data from Kinesis, Kafka, Pulsar, lot of different systems, as well as on the batch side as well. You can put your data in either GCS or ADLS or S3, and then we take care of that. So we have all three clouds. And another point to mention is we also have two options, which is bring your own cloud and the dedicated SaaS. So we can the customers can actually choose to run their data plane either in their account or in Startree's account. So that gives we kind of the flexibility for different customers. A lot of enterprise customers prefer the bring your own cloud because the data never leaves their VPC, and that's a very popular model that we have used.
Okay. And do you have a managed offering of StarTree as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So we have. I think both are self managed by us. It just the only difference is where is the data plane? Is it in the customer account or in our account? So
Okay.
they get the full
And
benefit of a service.
I've been tracking this kind of emerging market that I call real-time analytics, right? So
Mhm.
there's Pinot and StarTree, and there's a few others out there.
Mhm.
How would you say that Pinot and StarTree compare to some of those other ones? And how do you see, I guess, the whole market lifting up for everybody?
Yeah, so compared to other systems, one of the things that Pinot is from day one, it's built for scale. I mean, we built it for LinkedIn scale, and we built, and then it's been adopted and battle tested in a lot of different large scale companies, right? So when it comes to scale, that is where Pinot is like massive. We see massive adoption in terms of where what we see in the world, as well as in terms of platform use cases. That means you're not thinking Pinot as like, hey, here is just one use case where I'm actually using Pinot. So we built in all the requirements for multi-tenancy, being able to run a large cluster and serve multiple use cases on the same cluster, and keep efficiency in mind from day one. So that's kind of where we shine, and that's the origin of Pinot as well, back at LinkedIn.
Okay. And as customers get comfortable with real time analytics and StarTree and the Pinot products, do you find that they start to find new solutions that they can use, new challenges that they can use this technology to apply to?
Yes, yes, I've been myself very surprised to see the kind of new use cases that I keep seeing every day in and day out. And something I've seen like Uber, for example, using it for Uber freights, right? So they actually were able to track the drivers, the truck drivers, be able to provide them with real-time insights and also some incentives to be able to get their thing on time. So there are a lot of these kinds of things that people can do by having the visibility in terms of what's going on, whether it's a supply chain system or it's like a retail system. Any of these industries can actually benefit. And I think the key thing there, Alex, is that once the customer realizes that the value of an event is actually short-lived, or it means it decays very quickly with time. And with systems like Pinot, they're able to capture that when the value is the highest, because a lot of these things, if you kind of know that someone missed their schedule of delivery the one day later, it's already too late, so you're not giving the right experience for your customers. And those things, once the companies realize, it becomes a must have. And that's kind of what we see is like generally the leaders in every space use this to innovate and then set a new standard, and then there are others who actually follow them very quickly because it becomes a must have and no longer a nice to have.
Yeah, I would agree that the world seems to be speeding up at times, right? We've definitely left the batch world behind. Um, I wanted to bring up that Apache Pinot won a 2024 Big Data Wire Editor's Choice Award in the open source projects to watch category. Uh, I was just wondering if you could tell me, what does winning that award mean to you?
It means a lot, not just to me. I think it's to for the testament for the entire community and the committers working on Apache Pinot, right? I think when we started, again, as I mentioned, there were a handful of companies actually using this technology, and to to come all this way to win the project of the year, it basically means that a lot of companies are now starting to realize, and a lot of them have already realized the value of having something like this. And it's not just, as I mentioned, getting there and solving one use case. It kind of
Mhm.
becomes the de facto system within the company. So a lot of leaders are actually adopting this technology, building their platform, building their data products on top of it, and relying on this for their day-to-day operations. Right? I think that's a real testament, and it's a vision that we started, that more people should be running queries and not writing SQL queries, but running queries via data applications. And that was the hypothesis and the vision that we actually started with. And it's great to see that the dream coming a reality.
Yeah, it's great to see that you're fulfilling that original goal. I have one last
Mhm.
question, Kishore. I'm actually legally required to ask about generative AI and the impact that it's having on your business.
Yeah, no, I think that's to me that's still a start in terms of how generative AI is going to change. I see it still at an infancy stage in terms of people just indexing their documents and then generating the embeddings and then being able to query. So for us, we are actually preparing for the next wave, which is think about every event that is actually happening, right? And we will be very soon generating embeddings on every event, not just on static documents that we are generating. And that's when a lot of things will change, where you no longer can actually keep up to date in terms of your training because the data is continuously changing. So the real time RAG and then being able to kind of combine your models built offline with the latest data that you're actually getting is going to become more and more important. So it is definitely something that we are super excited. There is a lot of real life applications of this, and especially even in the observability side, where you can think of asking natural language questions on your logs and metrics. So the possibilities are endless, and I think we are super excited here at StarTree.
Yeah, I'm excited to track it. The technology is moving so fast. There's new possibilities coming to reality every day. So very exciting. Kishore, thanks so much for joining us here on the Big Data Debrief. I appreciate your insight and your time.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you for having me on the show.